Revenge Unleashed, How I Exposed My Girlfriend's Betrayal. I'm a 27-year-old male, and I've been with my girlfriend, well, ex-girlfriend now for almost 3 years. We live together in a small apartment downtown. I worked long hours as a software developer for a startup. You know how it goes. Late nights, constant pressure, but it paid well enough to keep us comfortable. My girlfriend, Kay, worked part-time as a waitress while finishing her degree. Things seemed fine. I had no reason to question our relationship. We had arguments like any couple, but nothing out of the ordinary. At least, that's what I thought until last Tuesday. That day, I got off work earlier than usual because my boss had a meeting cancelled. I figured I'd surprise Kay with her favorite takeout, and maybe even go for a movie afterward. It was one of those rare nights when we both had time to relax. It had been a rough couple of months. She was stressed with her final exams, and I was buried in work. I just wanted to remind her that we were in this together, no matter how hard things got. I parked outside our building, takeout bags in hand, feeling good for the first time in a while. But as I climbed the stairs, I noticed something strange. The door to our apartment was slightly ajar. My heart did that weird thing where it skips a beat, and then thuds in your chest like it's trying to escape. I stepped in quietly. I could hear voices, hers, obviously, but there was someone else, a guy for sure. At first, I thought maybe one of her friends had come over. It didn't make sense, but I didn't jump to conclusions. At least not yet. Walking through the short hallway that leads to the living room, I heard it. "Yeah, he has no idea," she was saying, her voice clear and sharp in the otherwise silent apartment. I froze. I mean, he works all the time. It's not like he notices when I'm out with you. Plus, I've got him wrapped around my finger. So even if he did, I could talk my way out of it. I blinked, unsure if my brain was playing tricks on me. Maybe I misunderstood. But no, the guy laughed. And I heard the unmistakable sound of a bottle clinking against the glass. They were drinking in our living room. "He's so clueless," she continued. "It's almost sad how easy it's been. In the best part, he still thinks I'm stressed about school, and that's why I'm distant. It's pathetic." My throat tightened, and I gripped the takeout bag until my knuckles went white. My heart was pounding so hard I thought they might hear from the other room. I wanted to storm in there, confront her, scream something, anything, but I couldn't move. I couldn't even breathe. "Well," the guy said, his voice dripping with arrogance. "As long as it works out for us, who cares, right? It's not like you're ever going to get caught." That was it. The world split beneath me, like someone had pulled the floor out from under my feet. I didn't know who this guy was. Maybe someone from her classes or work. It didn't matter. What mattered was that she'd been cheating on me, laughing about it like it was some kind of joke. Part 2, I thought about barging in, screaming at her, throwing them both out, and demanding answers. But then, something stopped me. Maybe it was the fact that they didn't even know I was there. Or maybe it was the realization that whatever confrontation I had wouldn't change the fact that the person I loved and trusted was now a complete stranger. So I left. I quietly backed out of the apartment, closing the door as gently as I could. I couldn't risk them hearing me. I don't even know why. I walked back down the stairs, got in my car, and drove off. My hands were shaking, my vision blurry, and I felt like I was suffocating. But I kept driving. I didn't go home that night. I didn't even know where home was anymore. I ended up at a friend's place. Someone Kate didn't know about, so she couldn't track me down easily. I crashed on his couch without saying much, staring at the ceiling while my thoughts spiraled into a dark abyss. The next morning, I blocked her everywhere on my phone, social media, email, everywhere. I didn't even tell her why. I wanted her to feel what I felt for that split second when I heard her voice laughing about me like I was some clueless idiot. I wanted her to realize I was gone, that she couldn't explain it away or manipulate her way out of it. The first few days were chaos. She tried calling a million times, texting, emailing, sending messages through mutual friends, and even showing up in my office. My phone buzzed constantly from all the unknown numbers she used to reach me. Every message started the same: confusion, then apologies, and eventually desperation. Messages like, "Please, let's talk. I can explain everything. It's not what you think. I love you," but I didn't respond. I couldn't. How do you respond to someone who can betray you so easily and then twist the narrative as if you misunderstood the very clear betrayal you overheard? I wasn't misunderstanding anything. It was crystal clear. She wasn't just cheating on me physically. She was humiliating me behind my back. She had no respect for me as a person, as her partner. More time passed. Mutual friends kept sending messages, telling me Kay was freaking out, crying, desperate to talk. They didn't know the full story. I hadn't told anyone what I'd heard that night. Why would I? It was humiliating enough that it had happened. I didn't need to share my pain with the world, but about a week later, something else happened. I found out who the guy was. He wasn't a random friend from school or work. He was one of my co-workers. That's right, the man sitting in my living room, laughing about how clueless I was, worked in the same office as me. I don't know how I hadn't noticed before. Maybe I had seen him around a few times and brushed it off because I trusted Kay. But now it all clicked. The way she casually bring him up, mentioning him like he was just part of some harmless story from my work life. She even once suggested inviting him out for drinks, but I thought nothing of it. Then, to make matters worse, I discovered he had a girlfriend. Not only was Kay cheating on me, but this guy was cheating on his girlfriend too. It felt like some twisted game to them, and I was the fool on the sidelines. For a moment, I considered confronting him at work, but then I realized he wasn't worth it. Neither was Kay. A dramatic showdown wouldn't fix the betrayal or change what had happened. I was done with both of them. A few days later, Kay showed up at my friend's place. She must have figured out where I was staying through mutual connections. She was pounding on the door, crying and begging for me to let her in. My friend turned to me, asking what I wanted to do. I told him to let her in. When she walked through the door, she looked like a mess, mascara running, eyes red and swollen. Her hands trembling like she was scared, but I didn't feel sorry for her. Not in the slightest. She started with the usual apologies, saying it was all a mistake. She claimed she'd been confused and that the other guy didn't mean anything. That it was just a moment of weakness. The more she talked, the clearer it became that she was still trying to manipulate me, twisting the story to suit her narrative. At first, she didn't even fully admit to the affair. Instead, she said things like, "It wasn't like that, and I never meant to hurt you." Finally, I couldn't listen anymore. I heard everything. I said, my voice eerily calmed despite the storm inside me. "I was there that night. You didn't know, but I was there listening to you laugh about me." Her face turned pale, and she stopped mid-sentence. For a second, I thought she might faint. She knew there was no way out now. I stood up, walked to the door and opened it. "We're done," I said. "There's nothing left to say." She tried to protest, rushing toward me, but my friend stepped between us. She broke down in the hallway, sobbing and begging, swearing she'd never do it again. That she loved me. But I was done. I had nothing left to give her. I walked out of her life without looking back. As devastating as it was in the moment, there was a strange sense of relief washing over me as I left. It felt like I had ripped off a massive bandage that had been hiding a festering wound. Sure, the pain was raw and intense, but the weight of all the deceit and humiliation was gone. I wasn't being played anymore. After that day, she stopped trying. The calls and texts dried up. Maybe she moved on, or maybe guilt consumed her. I didn't care. What mattered was that I was free from her lies. But the guy, that was a different story. At first, I considered leaving my job altogether. But why should I? Why uproot my life because of their selfish decisions? I was good at my work and had a future at the company. I wasn't about to let them ruin everything. So, I stayed. But that didn't mean I let him get away with it. The next week, I walked into the office like normal, head held high, acting as if nothing had changed. The tension was impossible to miss. He avoided me, ducking in hallways or looking away during meetings. It was like he was waiting for me to explode. But I didn't. I wouldn't give him that satisfaction. Instead, I went to HR, calmly, quietly, and with all the evidence I needed. This wasn't just about me. His girlfriend worked in the same building, and his behavior was creating a toxic environment. Turns out, office affairs were strictly against company policy, especially ones involving deceit and manipulation. The fallout was swift. His girlfriend found out before HR even had time to act. News spreads fast when whispered behind closed doors. By the end of the week, he was fired. His reputation ruined. As for me, I kept my head down and focused on my work. I made sure no one would see me as someone to be taken lightly again. I didn't feel like a hero. There was no victory in this. Just a cold satisfaction in knowing I'd removed the toxic parts of my life. What surprised me most was how quickly I moved on. I thought Kay's betrayal would haunt me for months, maybe years. But within weeks, the fog lifted. I no longer felt like the guy who had been cheated on. I felt lighter, like I'd learned something important about myself. About what I was willing to tolerate from someone who was supposed to love me. For too long, I put Kay on a pedestal, ignoring red flags. Her late nights with weak excuses, her pulling away when I try to get close. I won't say I've forgiven her or him. Maybe I never will, but I've let go of the anger. Now I focus on my own happiness. Yes, trust is harder now, and it may take time to fully open up to someone again. But that's okay. I'll get there. If I've learned one thing, it's this: people can be selfish, but they can also be resilient. I'm not the same person I was before. I'm stronger now, smarter, and I know what I'm worth. I won't let anyone treat me like that again.